Chair, ladies and gentlemen of the committee. Under current law, counties and municipalities have the exclusive authority to zone for development of wind farms. Despite this, some townships have attempted to thwart the opportunity to build wind farms by using an antiquated and inapplicable process, claiming they can exercise authority to basically ban the development of wind farms. This bill simply clarifies current law and the exclusive jurisdiction of counties and municipalities to zone for wind. I will add that I am a municipal attorney and am familiar with the jurisdiction of units of local government, including townships. I have a couple excerpts from floor debate over a few different years. In 2007, there was a Senate debate referencing who should regulate the development of wind farms, and I have explicit language referencing that county and municipalities have the ability to regulate zoning of wind farms. Happy to share that document. In 2015, during another floor debate, a member presented a different bill regarding the development of wind farms and clarified, quote, wind bills are under the local control of municipalities and counties. So to me, the law is clear. As a township attorney, as I said, I am familiar with the limitations of jurisdiction. And if you practice law, and I recognize some of you in here do, under the principle of Dillon's law, it provides that non-home rule communities, such as townships, are limited in their exercise of authority to that which is specifically granted. Turning to the issue of public policy, this bill is good public policy. The reason that zoning for wind farms is limited to counties and municipalities is because if every single unit of local government could regulate differently, it would preclude the development of any wind farms, solar farms, any other large business that would cover across township lines. It just doesn't make sense, which is why the General Assembly saw fit to regulate this way. The economic benefits of not just the wind farms that we're seeing developed currently, but those in the future is simply stunning. It cannot be overstated. In one proposed development, the local school district stands to receive $850,000 annually in year one. The high school, $370,000. The county itself, $320,000, and the list goes on and on. This is exactly why the county weighed in these counties, and they made the decision to allow the zoning of wind farms. Of course, the environmental benefits of wind farms and other renewables is clear. I won't elaborate on that, although this bill is supported by the Illinois Environmental Council. Organized labor, too, can tout the major economic and ancillary benefits of the development of these solar wind farms. But finally, I want to address the issue of property rights. This law prohibits the practice, or the law in general prohibits the practice of exclusionary zoning. And what that is prohibiting what is otherwise a lawful use of a property by putting such stringent conditions on it that you, in effect, render it impossible to build. That is exactly what the townships are attempting to do here. It negatively impacts property values and the ability of a property owner to utilize their land as they see fit. In one proposed wind farm project, for example, 100 landowners stand to individually benefit financially every year. That's their choice, and that should be their right. And I can be happy to turn it over to Amy Kurt to testify about the other benefits of such a project.
Just before we hear from Ms. Kurt, we do have 105 proponents, 219 opponents, and 2 with no position. Representative McSweeney, do we have to leave from reading all of them into the record?
I was able to I'm fine with that.
Right. Just a point, and I understand there's over 300 witness slips. This is democracy in action. People that are affected by this in multiple ways have stepped up. I think it's important to have a name read in the record, but I understand. But I just want to make the point that people are plugged into this issue, and that this is an important issue, and I think it would be really valid to have a name read in the record.
Okay, thank you. We're going to, please add Representative Brady to the roll. We'll now continue with Ms. Kurt. Please identify yourself and continue with your testimony. Again, you are limited to 5 minutes, and that will be strictly enforced.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and members of the committee. My name is Amy Kurt, and I'm a project manager with EDP Renewables. We're one of the largest owners and operators of wind farms, both in Illinois and around the country. We've got 5 wind farms in Illinois, with more than 500 operating wind turbines around the state. And I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you in support of House Bill 2988, because it is extremely important both to our project that we're building in Douglas County, as well as to the wind industry as a whole throughout the state of Illinois. We support House Bill 2988 because it clarifies and reaffirms the existing law regarding how wind energy can be zoned in Illinois. The bill creates greater business certainty and will encourage more investment in rural Illinois communities. Our wind farm, the Harvest Ridge Wind Farm, is a great example of why Senate Bill 2988 is needed and how a misunderstanding of the existing law can endanger critical infrastructure projects that will bring great value to rural communities. Illinois law already states that counties and municipalities have the exclusive ability to zone for wind energy in Illinois. But despite that fact, despite the fact that townships have no statutory authority to enact wind energy zoning, 2 townships have attempted to do so in the case of the Harvest Ridge Wind Farm, or developing. Excuse me. EDP Renewables, our local partners, we've played by the rules throughout this lengthy development process. We started this project over a decade ago, testing the wind speeds, reviewing the county rules, designing and engineering, working with our interconnection partners, reaching out to landowners for leases on their property, and we've been working with the county as well to make sure that we're designing and engineering our project according to their rules. We've been doing that for several years. And we've been doing that according to the county rules per state statute. But despite our best efforts, 2 townships have recently enacted zoning regulations which are a clear attempt to block our wind farm from moving forward, and to deny these local landowners, over 100 local landowners that had signed on to participate in the project, to deny them from their right to lease their land for this project. Because the townships lacked this authority to create zoning, we have filed suit in Douglas County to strike down the wind farm-related portions of their local zoning ordinance. And while we are hopeful that the courts will eventually affirm that townships have no wind energy zoning authority, as you are well aware, lawsuits can take a long time, many years, and many dollars as well. And best case is, we spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, the townships as well spend hundreds of thousands of their taxpayer dollars on a unpaid lawsuit. But the worst case is that because of these delays, the project would be killed. And the millions of dollars in landowner payments, $1 million a year in landowner payments, and the millions of dollars in taxes that we will be paying from this wind farm. We estimate more than $2 million in taxes, the majority of that to the local schools each year, would not result. So clarifying legislation such as House Bill 2988 would be extremely helpful. It would send a clear signal to the courts that they need to take seriously the structure that the legislature has previously put in place to allow for wind energy zoning to be done by both counties and municipalities alone. I understand that all land use decisions and laws are about striking balances. That is much of your job. You have to weigh the concerns of business interests to attract investments with orderly administration of local government and local control, with meeting state policy goals, reaching state policy goals, and the need to allow private landowners to use their land in the way they see fit.
Ms. Kirk, you have 30 seconds remaining. Please bring your statement to a conclusion.
Sure. House Bill 2988 reaffirms and clarifies that balance that the legislature previously struck, placing local wind farm permitting within the counties and municipalities, not townships. So we strongly encourage you to support House Bill 2988. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Kirk. Chair recognizes Mr. Scott. Please identify yourself.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Sean Stott. I'm the Director of Governmental Affairs with the Laborers International Union's Midwest region. We represent 17,000 construction laborers and other workers in Illinois throughout the state, particularly in downstate Illinois. We too support House Bill 2988 and echo the comments of Representative Williams and Ms. Kurt. the importance of wind energy and to Illinois and its construction workers cannot be overstated. There are approximately 2,700 utility-scale wind turbines in Illinois, and members of the laborers union and several other trades have worked on all of them. In total, over the last 15 years, Illinois laborers have worked more than 2.3 million hours on large-scale wind projects. Now, careers in construction have periods of feast and famine, and all too often of late, our members and others have been on the hungry side. Wind farm projects create hundreds of good-paying jobs for laborers, operating engineers, iron workers, millwrights, and electricians. And unlike some jobs that employ workers for weeks at a time, wind projects typically last more than 6 months, some more than a year. They can, quite literally, make a construction worker's entire season. For example, the laborers' local union that covers the project that generated the introduction of House Bill 2988 helped complete a wind project that went online last year, just 2 counties west. That project employed anywhere from 25 to 30 laborers at a time. They typically worked 10 to 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, for more than a year. The laborers in this area of the state make $30 an hour. And keep in mind, I'm only speaking of the members of one trade that I represent out of the 5 that were employed on that project. Also keep in mind that those job numbers do not include the members employed on local road improvements that are required to support wind projects. House Bill 2988 will not only help create jobs in one county of the state, it will help foster the development of wind energy all over Illinois and the critical economic benefits associated with it. We ask for your support of House Bill 98 here in committee and on the House floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will now hear from the opponents. Hold on, wait one moment, please. Do members have any questions for the proponents? Representative Greenwood.
Currently, we're on the, I think you said 5, maybe it was 4 in Illinois. Where are they located?
Sure. We've got 5 wind farms. They are in really northwest of here, so Grundy County. I think it dips a little bit into Livingston, McLean, Tazewell, Logan counties. So near Dwight, near Bloomington.
Representative Hallberg.
Thank you, Chairman. Representative Williams, how many counties or townships is this affected by today?
Well, this would apply to every county and every township in Illinois, and the law currently applies to every single county and township and municipality in Illinois. In 2007, when wind farms started being developed in Illinois, the history of the GA was, well, let's regulate this as a state. Because of local interests and the fact that it's impractical for the state to dictate locally what should happen in all these areas, the discussion was had, and that was the excerpt that I read from, to regulate these at the local level, county municipalities. And that was a specific decision not to have the state weigh in all the time on these issues, but to let the local government, specifically counties and municipalities, decide. It wasn't to make any and all units of local government have the ability to do so.
So would it be safe to say that there may be some townships that have zoned themselves and do have regulations in a situation where the counties don't have zoning now? Is it safe to say that that could be happening somewhere in the state of Illinois?
I'm not aware of the specifics of who does what, but I will say that under the basic premise of statutory construction, when there is a specific allowance or prohibition on an issue, it overrides a general zoning authority. So that's just a basic premise of statutory construction. So the fact that pertaining to wind, counties and municipalities have that explicit authority, it does preempt the townships.
So what happens in case if your bill becomes law and we find out that there's townships that have enacted zoning maybe and regulated wind, and then counties say, okay, we want to have different regulations, what's going to happen in that situation?
Well, it's no different than current law. This bill is simply clarifying current law. So I would submit that under current law, the counties and municipalities in those particular areas already have the ability to zone for wind.
I think that's a fairly wide assumption that they may not be doing that. I think we see a situation where we have counties counties without zoning, the townships have enacted zoning.
Well, they can go ahead and take whatever action, but it will risk possible litigation. And the reason we're back here is because despite the clarity in the law, the townships are acting outside their authority, in my opinion.
No further questions, thank you.
Any members have any final questions here for the proponents? Seeing none. We will now ask the opponents to come up to the table. That would be Mr. Gary Luth and Mr. Kirk Allen. We will start with Mr. Luth, and again, you each have a 5-minute time allotment, which will be strictly enforced. Mr. Luth, would you please identify yourself and begin your testimony?
Thank you. My name is Gary Luth. I'm a longtime resident of Newman Township, and God willing, I will be planting and harvesting my 49th crop of corn and soybeans in Newman Township this year. Also, I served as chairman of the Newman Township Zoning Commission that would have their work voided by House Bill 2988 if it passes. To be clear, I am not against renewable energy or responsibly sited wind farms. I believe that renewables will play a large role in meeting our future energy demands in the United States. I am an opponent to House Bill 2988 because it would void several months of grassroots citizens' efforts in creating a zoning ordinance that has as its first priority the health, safety, comfort, and welfare of the citizens of Newman Township as it relates to the industrial developments within the township, since 2988 addresses only wind energy conversion systems, or WECS. I will focus my comments on the history of the WECS section of the Newman Township zoning ordinance. Last summer, township residents became concerned about the impact of the proposed wind farm on their health, safety, comfort, and property values when they learned that the proposed wind farm would feature the tallest tip-height land-based turbines ever used in the continental United States. That would be 591 feet tall, tip height for the turbines. That's just 40 feet shorter than the St. Louis Arch. Douglas County building permit regulations for siting WECs seemed out of step with the proposed machines. The Douglas County regulations were written in 2009 and applied to turbines that were only half the generating capacity and size of these proposed turbines. Since Douglas County has no countywide zoning, citizens discovered that Illinois law allows for township zoning. Thus, the effort began to write a township zoning ordinance that included WECS regulations that would offer more protection for the large turbines than the antiquated county building permit rates written 10 years ago by Douglas County. All statutory requirements were followed in creating the township zoning, from petitioning to 60% vote at the town meeting, authorizing the township board to appoint the 5-member zoning commission group, which I was fortunate enough to chair. It took 3 months and many meetings and many hours to write the entire zoning ordinance. Then we turned it over to the county township board, or to the township board. The township board looked at the zoning ordinance and took 2 months to have hearings, ask questions, and finally the township board of Newman Township unanimously passed the zoning ordinance. So here we are today, with House Bill 2988 trying to void and negate the months-long efforts of those in Newman Township. I assume that the EPR, the large multinational developer of the proposed WECs in Newman Township, is behind this effort to thwart the WECs regulations. EPR has suggested, as you heard, that the Township WECs ordinance was designed to make it impossible for them to cite WECs in Newman Township. However, I strongly disagree with this. Most of the regs in the Newman Township ordinance were borrowed from neighboring counties that currently have wind farms. In fact, the Newman WECs ordinance is more friendly to EPR's efforts than the regs in Champaign and McLean County. For example, Champaign County limits turbine heights to 500 feet, McLean limits it to 550 feet. Thus, the proposed towers for Newman Township would not be allowed in in Champaign or McLean County. The Newman West has no height restrictions. We created a fair ordinance that protects our citizens but does not automatically shut out the proposed West. House Bill 2988, if it becomes law, Newman Township residents will be within the footprint of the proposed wind farm, will have little protection from turbines that are 591 feet tall. They have 3 rotor blades, each 240
Mr. Luke, you have 30
long.
seconds remaining in your time. Please bring your remarks to a conclusion.
Those blades will weigh 70 metric tons each. The Newman Township ordinance does not protect from this. It allows those machines to be within 1,000 feet of a residence. I ask that you would thoughtfully consider opposing House Bill 2988 and allowing the Newman Township West zoning ordinance to remain in place. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Luce. The chair recognizes Mr. Allen. Please identify yourself and begin with your testimony.
Thank you, Chairman. My name is Kirk Allen. I'm the co-founder of the Edgar County Watchdogs. Our legislative history has been consistent with the importance of local control from the township level on up to the county level. That history is a great guide when addressing new bills such as the one presented today. It was repeatedly reportedly to clarify a previous power given to counties. Today's bill, as referenced before by the sponsor, clarifies that only a county may establish standards for wind farms. As was mentioned in May of 2015, the Senate also clarified. One thing that was not mentioned was in that local controlled municipalities and counties was when there was no zoning in place. This is an issue with multiple opinions on both sides of the aisles from the legal industry. Some are arguing, as the opponents did and as we are, there's 2 different inputs being provided here, and that's currently in the courts. In 2015, the Senate said zoning of windmills are under local control when there's no zoning in place. When there's no zoning in place in these unincorporated areas of the county, the General Assembly provided the townships through the power given by the electors. The very grassroots of our foundation, the electors, were given power to zone, a power exercised by many. This power was given by the General Assembly. This bill strips townships from the very power the General Assembly gave them when it comes to zoning. Why are we stripping local control from townships for wind farms or windmills? Are townships less capable to handle those versus any other agricultural operation or commercial fertilizer operations? Why are we carving out one industry and stripping away local control? How is this equal protection under the law? There are numerous townships that have already zoned wind power operations because there was no zoning in place from the county. Their lawyers and TOI gave input that they had the power to do that. So I understand the legal dispute. Does this bill negate the zoning townships now have? Some have implied that it does. The concept of local control is not a talking point. It's a foundational element of our government that the people should be in control of their local decisions. What is the common denominator in all zoning authority from the township to the county level? It's to conserve property values. This one issue is paramount and appears as one of the first elements outlined in the Township and Municipal Code and is second only to Public Health and General Welfare in the County Code. From the Township Code, and I quote, "Due allowance shall be made for the conservation of property values." In the Municipal Code, quote, "that the taxable value of land and buildings throughout the municipality may be conserved." From the County Code, for the purpose of conserving values of property throughout the county. How many caught the difference in each unit of government? From the township level up, the importance of property value conservation is diminished. The Township Code mandates that zoning shall be made for the conservation of property values, while municipalities may conserve those values. And County Code simply is to conserve property values as being a purpose of zoning. This bill strips the unit of government that is given a mandate to conserve property values. Township values shall be made for the conservation of property values. In our work throughout the state, the one thing we've learned is there is no one better in touch with the local property values than those in townships and small villages, the primary location being targeted for wind farms. Considering the townships are the only unit of government that is mandated to conserve property values, and it's those values that ensure our communities continue to function, why on earth would you strip them of their local control given to them by those elected to represent right here in the General Assembly? Having exercised power in our township as it relates to wind farms, I can tell you there are many heated discussions on all the pros and cons of wind farms. But the one thing we all agreed to It was our right to control the zoning, not that of people that live 20 to 40 miles away. It was our right. In our county, it was clear. Their focus was all about direct revenue coming into the county to meet their needs. Personal property values and the impact of wind farms on those values was the furthest thing from their mind. They saw site placement fees as the quick fix to years of fiscal irresponsibility and promises of future tax as the answer.
Mr. Ellen, you have 30 seconds remaining of your time.
Not once mentioned a thing about people's property rights or values. Their focus was their coffers and nothing else. This bill has a direct impact on the most important thing our taxpayers have, their property value. Please do not strip them of their local control, as we already know when control is elevated out of the local hands, things get progressively worse for those locally. We urge you to amend this bill to ensure townships retain the zoning rights implemented to date and that they do not lose their legislative authority to zone as they see fit in their communities. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Do members have any questions for the opponents? President Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of things, some questions, comments. First of all, I really appreciate everybody that has weighed in on this subject. We have a witness on both sides of the issue. Thank you to the many residents of the district and Douglas County who came out today on both sides. I appreciate being here. This is the debate that we need to have, and I really appreciate that. Mr. Luth, my understanding is the zoning process was fully carried out. Everybody had ample time, ample seats at the table to weigh in on this subject. It wasn't to prohibit wind, but just very basically to give the process, due process, and you guys working within the perimeters of the authority that you have in the township code. Is that correct?
That's exactly right. In fact, I didn't mention it, but we spent close to $30,000 on legal advisory fees to make sure that we did everything exactly the way it's supposed to according to statute. As the attorney told us, a 60% vote of the electors started the process, and a unanimous vote of the Newman Township Board of Directors actually accepted the zoning ordinance. So we have the public behind us throughout the entire process, I think, and we followed all the rules that were.
Thank you. You know, and the question about property rights, and I fully understand about property rights, and people ought to have the ability to do what they want to do with their property. However, the township code gives townships the ability to zone. I'm not really sure why we're carving out one specific industry or another. But again, I fully understand the situation with property rights. I am not opposed to big wind or big solar or any other alternative energies. That's not my deal. My concern is to maintain what the township code gives township residents the ability to regulate themselves in these matters. My other concern is this matter is being litigated. I think there is some questions amongst those whether townships have the ability to do what we believe they have the ability to do. And I would like to see this process played out in the courts and ultimately get a decision to see where this really comes down. If it goes all the way to the Supreme Court, so be it. Then we have a decision about what truly is in the law or not. I guess in closing, I would like to look for an amendment on this if the representative would be amenable to this, to allow that those townships that we don't know out there that may be in a similar situation, and these two townships that are affected by this, to be grandfathered in this situation. I think that's only fair. That allows the legal system to play out, and so I would like to look for an amendment to this bill to allow the grandfathering in these townships that are currently in this situation. Thank you. No further questions or comments?
Do any other members have any questions? Representative Walker.
For either of the opponents, just for my education, what proportion of your county is unincorporated?
I'm in Edgar County, and off the top of my head, it's probably upwards of 75%.
I'm in Douglas County, and I do not have the statistics, but I would say we're probably closer to 80%, 85%.
Any other members have any other questions? All right, seeing none, the chair will recognize Representative Williams for concluding remarks.
Thank you, members, and I appreciate the robust conversation. One, just to clarify, overall, this bill is not designed to weigh in on the appropriateness of large wind farm developments anywhere in any particular area. This bill is to revert to what is current law, and that is to allow local control, but for counties and for municipalities where it makes more sense, where the legislature intended it to be. Regarding the conversation of property values and property rights, I will note that in a particular example of Douglas County, if the township zoning as presented, I believe inappropriately, were allowed to be in effect, there would be 3 wind turbines available. And that's on property that the people want to participate in the project. So that really defines what exclusionary zoning is all about, and that's what's happening here. So hypothetically, let's say there's a disagreement in the law. I feel that it's clear, if they're clarifying current law. I would also ask you then to turn to the public policy area and make a decision whether you think smaller units of local government should preempt the ability of other units of local government to make these decisions for their county, and from property owners from being able to do what they want with their own property. So with that, thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Representative. There being no further debate, Representative Moylan moves that House Bill 1443 do pass as amended. Clerk, please call the roll.
Ealing,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
McSweeney,
No.
Warren,
Yes.
Brady,
No.
Ditch,
Yes.
Greenwood,
Yes.
Albrook,
No.
Marin,
Yes.
Moylan,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Welch,
Yes.
Welter,
Yes.
Willis,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
On a call of 14 in favor, 3 opposed, the bill passes and will be favorably reported to the House floor. Thank you very much.